Hey guys, welcome back. In this video we're making a wire bangle. This design has an infinity knot on the front and a simple hook and loop clasp at the back of our bracelet. It's quite a simple design and something a little bit different. For our design today we're using two 16-inch lengths of 12 gauge florist wire. I really love working with florist wire. It comes in so many cool colours and it's a super easy, fun, bendy wire to work with. So to start with, we cut our two 16-inch lengths of wire. Now first up, we're going to make the infinity knot for our bracelet. So we're going to make a bend in both pieces of wire. So slightly off center, it's fine for it to be a little bit longer on one end, and now just making a nice small bend in the middle here. Same on this piece as well, doesn't have to be in the middle, it's actually better if one end is a bit longer. And a nice small bend in this end as well. Now we're going to place the two middle bends together. So gently sliding them together, we need to put the ends of one piece of wire through the other loop. So just sliding that along so that you can loop it over the ends. And then pull both the ends to pull both of those loops close together. Pulling those wires nice and tight, we want that little infinity knot to be quite close and tight together so that it doesn't flop around too much. So just making sure all of those wires are pulled nice and tight and you've got a nice tidy even looking infinity knot in the middle. It should look nice and even on both sides of the infinity knot, so both loops look nice and even. Now we can move on to the hook and loop part of our design. Now the total size length of our bracelet is going to be about 20 centimeters long. So we're going to measure out right from the very center of the knot, about 10 centimeters along. So that will be where the very tip of our loop will be. Now, our loop is going to be about 1 centimeter long, so we're going to cut it around the 9 centimeter mark here, and we're cutting that length of wire that is the shorter piece. So cutting that shorter piece around the 9 centimeter mark. Now we're going to wrap our little loop on the end here. So with some pliers, just coming in and grabbing our wires right where that shorter wire ends up. So just grabbing it there and making a bend in the wire outwards. Now coming in with our round nose pliers and grabbing it just above the bend there. Bending that wire right around to form a loop and bringing it up over both wires. Making sure that loop isn't too small, we do need to be able to fit our hook through it. Now just making sure our wires are nice and flat and everything's sitting in line nice and tidy. Now with our pliers we can grab that loop on the end and bring this wire around both of those straight wires there to secure this loop in place. So it's nice bendy wire, should be able to bring it around nice and tight. It's up to you how many loops around you do. I normally do at least 2 or 3, making sure that they're all coming around both of those wires on the bracelet. You do want them nice and tidy and close together, and I just leave that tail on so that I can make sure it's nice and even at the end. Now onto the opposite side as well, we're going to place a hook on the end of this end. So again, measuring out right from the middle of our infinity knot, and we've got a longer length and a shorter length. So the shorter length, we're going to measure and cut on that 9 centimeter mark. Now that just leaves our longer piece here to make our hook with. So we're going to measure right off the end of where we've cut that shorter length. We're going to measure out about 2.5 to 3 centimeters. Grabbing that point with our pliers there on that 2.5 centimeter mark and making a bend in the wire. So back down against itself, and we want a nice small bend on the end of our wire here. So with your pliers, just try and bring that gently together. Taking your time to work with all of these wires, making sure they're coming down nice and straight and sitting next to each other. This little loop here does need to be small enough to fit through your hook that you made on the other side. So just make sure it's nice and small, working gently so you don't break your wire. Once that loop for your hook on the end is nice and small, then we're going to secure it on. Again, making sure your wires are in the right position. Then grabbing that end with your pliers, and then we can gently bend the wire around, making sure we're wrapping it around both of those wires on your bracelet. And coming around about the same amount of loops as you came around on the other end. So now's your chance to make sure that they're looking nice and even on both ends, that your loops on the end are sitting nice and even and close together. Once you're happy with them, you can decide which side of your bracelet is going to be the inside, and then lift those ends of wire up, cutting them off nice and short and crimping them in tight so there's no sharp edges. Now make sure your hook and loop are sitting nice and straight on the ends. Once you're happy with them and your ends are tucked in nice and tight and there's no sharp edges, then you can start to gently bend and form your bangle into the right position. So making a nice bracelet shape and bringing that hook and loop nice and close together. Then we just need to bend that end hook around to make the hook shape. Gently bending the end of it around and just trying it out a couple of times. So it might take a little bit to get that hook shape right. You want it to be able to just sit on and off nice and easily, but hold it secure. So there's your infinity knot wire bangle or bracelet.